All right, we're continuing on with NFL Week 7 starts and sits. If you missed yesterday's episode, go back and watch the optimal starts at each position. This episode, I'm going to walk you through each position and give you guys all the toughest matchups at each position. Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. Who's got it in tough so you guys can make proper educated decisions. I'm going to hold your hand and lay out every position so that you guys are fully aware. So very, very important episode right here, right now. And I can't believe we're at NFL Week 7 already, almost halfway through the season. Drop a comment below. Let me know how fast the season's been going for you. It's been flying by. Now, today we've got a game. We've got the Saints versus the Cardinals. Looks like the Cardinals are at home with a 2.5-point favorite here. Now, what I do to enhance my game watching experience is I go to Hooters.com or I download the app, and you can too right now and save $10 on an order of 30 or more on takeout or delivery, guys. Go save some money on some amazing wings, on some nachos, on your favorite food off the menu. Hooters.com or download the app. The code you want to use is FFC20 is that magic code. Save yourself $10 on order of 30 or more on takeout or delivery. Go do that, guys, right now. Again, when I'm watching a game, I'm ordering in Hooters. I love the wings. Go order some food. Again, every game. We've got big UFC tonight. We've got, on Saturday. We've got games on Sunday. We've got games on Thursday. We've got games on Monday. Hooters.com. And the code you want to use to save is FFC20. Go order some wings right now. And secondly, guys, this is very important. Let's play a quick game here. I'm going to pull this up. Let's play more or less real quick. In the comments below or in your head if you're driving in the car, I want you guys to make a selection. Saquon Barkley, more or less than 76.5 points rushing this week, more or less than 76.5 rushing yards. And Breece Hall, the guy that I was telling you would break out, more or less than 63.5 rushing yards. You guys let me know below, and it's that easy to win. You guys could go play prizepicks.com. The code you want to use is DFS Lion. Prizepicks.com. Go try. It's a new way to play DFS, a fun way to play DFS. You parlay 2 to 5 players together. You select more or less on them, and it's that easy to succeed. Prizepicks.com, guys. Use code DFS Lion. Go create an account. Try this out, guys. Again, Saquon Barkley, over or under 76.5 rushing yards. Breece Hall, over or under 63.5. Drop a comment below or in your head, make a decision, and then go play. PrizePicks.com, DFS Lion. All right, let's run through this, guys. The guys that have it in tough at each position. If you're new to the channel, subscribe and drop your questions below. Drop them below. I'll try to get to as many as I possibly can. If you guys want direct access, guaranteed responses, patreon.com/FF Counselor. Join the front lines, the fantasy front lines. All right, quarterback here. Let's dive into it here. We got to talk about this. Zach Wilson, he's got it in tough. He had a 5-point week last week. Not good. Tough matchup versus Denver. And again, if you got better options at quarterback, go with your most consistent players. Whenever you're looking at starts and sits for NFL Week 7 or any week for that matter, you got to take a look at who's been consistent, right? We talked about this in the starts episode. Now, Mariota, tough matchup versus position, but he's been relatively consistent the past 2 weeks, 24 points and 18 the week before. What is your other option? How consistent have they been? How good is their matchup? You got to ask these questions. Patrick Mahomes, consistent the past 3 weeks. 6th hardest matchup versus position. Do you start Patrick Mahomes? I would say yes, he's playing San Fran, but unless you have an amazing, phenomenal, consistent, easy matchup other option, Pat Mahomes is your guy moving forward, all right? But tough matchup. Jared Goff, tough matchup versus position versus Dallas. Coming off a bad 8-point week last time they played. 8 points, guys. Very unacceptable here, all right? Is he going to be good? I don't know. He's got a tough matchup versus Dallas. Going to be interesting, but if you don't have a better option, you got to start him, right? Derek Carr, tough matchup, right? Versus Houston. Houston's secondary coming off an 18-point week. It's tough, man. I hopefully have a better option to Derek Carr. Mac Jones, I'm not sure if he's starting. That Bailey guy, whatever the hell is Zappy, Bailey, whatever his name is. Again, whoever is starting there at quarterback, if it's Mac Jones or if it's Zappy, Bailey, or whatever the hell his name is, you guys got to make it. I don't have stock in these guys, so it doesn't matter to me. But New England quarterbacks, they've got it in tough. Russell Wilson, 11th hardest matchup versus position for the Jets. Trevor Lawrence, 12th hardest matchup versus position. So those are the guys that have it in tough. Patriots quarterbacks, Denver, right? Chiefs, Lions, Vegas, Jets versus Denver, and Atlanta versus Cincy. Tough matchups versus position, all right? So just plan accordingly. And you can go back and look at the optimal plays in yesterday's episode, all right? Moving on to the running back position. Again, very slim and trim at the running back. We got guys that have been banged up. Jonathan Taylor with the ankle. Jackson comes in, steps it up, does well. But there's talk that Jonathan Taylor may be back this week. We're going to talk about his matchup. But very slim and trim. So here, you want to make sure you are starting the guys that have been consistent. I can't implore you enough how important that is. But the guys that have got it in tough, just so you're aware, Clyde Edwards-Helaire coming off 2 inconsistent weeks, has it in tough versus San Fran. I'd probably consider sitting him this week if you got better options. And if you got 16 rounds, what's phenomenal about the people that got 16 rounds, they're telling me, Joe, I got Henry, I got Barkley, I got Breece Hall, I got Dameon Pierce, I got Kenneth Walker. Like, who do I start? I'm like, all of them. And my advice to you guys, if you are seriously robust, I mean, if you've got 5 running backs like that, and a lot of people that got 60 rounds do, you want to maybe trade one, right? This is what you're going to do. You're going to leverage. This is about momentum. And bolster and boost up your wide receiver position or whatever position you need. So if you got 5 running backs, you can keep 3 or 4, maybe trade one, right? Get yourself an ace wide receiver, another wide receiver that's been doing really consistently. And there hasn't been a lot of wide receivers that have been consistent. I've been looking at this, guys. There really hasn't. But you may want to leverage what you've got there with running backs and get yourself another position, maybe a tight end, maybe a better quarterback. It's up to you guys. So leverage that, okay, guys? If you're in that situation, a lot of people are. If you listen to this channel anyway. Christian McCaffrey, tough matchup here versus Tampa Bay. Second hardest versus position, but coming off 3 great weeks. You don't want to sit Christian McCaffrey. We'll see how he holds up against Tampa Bay's rush defense. David Montgomery, very inconsistent, coming off a 9-point game. Obviously, he was banged up. Again, 18 the week before. Very, very tough to decide here, but Montgomery, unless you have a better option, you got to start him versus New England. He's got it in tough. DeAndre Swift, there's talk about him coming back to play. He's been banged up, shoulder, ankle. Told you he would kind of bust. He's not built to be a workhorse running back. Either way, 6th hardest matchup versus position versus Dallas. Be aware that if you do have a better option, maybe go with that. But if he does start, I think still Jamal Williams gets worked in. And Jamal Williams has been pretty solid, 2 out of the last 3 weeks, 25, 27 points, and then 6 points last week or the last time they played. So I look at Jamal Williams. I'm like, I still think it'll be a committee, but between him and DeAndre Swift, it still is going to be a committee. But Swift, on pace, I think he was limited in practice, on pace to come back, but he does have it in tough. Be aware. Tyler Algier and Caleb Huntley, it's been a crapshoot. Mariota likes to run the ball. You may want to sit Tyler Algier because he's been inconsistent if you got him. 5 points the last couple of weeks. Huntley, 3 and 6 points. They've had 9 and 10 points, each the past couple of weeks. Not very consistent, and they've got it in tough versus Cincy. If you got better options, go with that. I talked about Jonathan Taylor possibly coming back in a return here. He obviously hasn't played for a couple of weeks. Taylor's got it in tough if he does play versus Tennessee's rush defense. Be aware of that if you do decide to start him. Deion Jackson obviously taking a back seat if Taylor comes back, for sure. Breece Hall, a lot of people want to start him, and they're saying, hey, do I start Breece Hall or Kenneth Walker? Breece Hall does have the tougher matchup. 9th hardest position versus Denver, coming off some huge weeks, right? 31 and 23 points, respectively, the past couple of weeks. Does have it in tough. Be aware. But again, running back, you want to start them. Obviously, running backs are few and far between that get that type of workload. I still like Breece Hall. And it's so funny because everybody's riding Breece Hall now, but they all told you Michael Carter because that's what the team told you. You guys, you got to understand, guys, with fantasy is like, don't believe what they say, believe what they're doing. Actions do speak louder than words. And when you move up to draft Breece Hall, the best running back theoretically on paper out of this 2022 NFL draft class, and you move up to get him in the second round, when you have a running back in Michael Carter, that's enough to tell me that they don't believe in Michael Carter. And everyone's telling you, Michael Carter's a starter. Yeah, it's a formality. They're just trying to be nice. But really, their actions speak, differently. So always, that's a tip for you guys when you're drafting next year. And I talk about this in the 16 rounds. You got to aim for upside, aim high on the depth chart. All right, so he's got it in tough versus Denver. Nick Chubb's got it in tough versus Baltimore. Be aware of that. Coming off a crappy 8-point week last week. Just something to be aware of. James Conner, I know he's been banged up. If he comes back, he's got 11th hardest matchup versus position. And Joe Mixon also got it in tough versus Atlanta's rush defense. Moving on to the wide receiver position at this point, guys, lots of inconsistencies at wide receiver, but I'll give you guys a quick breakdown of who's got it in tough. Jets receivers got it in tough versus Denver. They have not been good at all. It's been a disaster with all these wide receivers between Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis. No one's putting up good numbers. They're spreading the ball around. Been a disaster. I'm sitting all those guys, okay? Christian Kirk's been very inconsistent, 12 points and then 12 points last week, 2 points the week before. Christian Kirk playing the Giants, tough matchup. It's been a disaster. They're spreading the ball around between, it's like Zay Jones, Marvin Jones. It's been a disaster. Nobody's really been getting, the bulk load of the receptions there. I mean, Kirk could have a big game. He's due, but if you have a better option, you might want to go with that. Playing the Giants, tough matchup, okay? Robert Woods, very inconsistent. 8 points last week, 13 the 2 weeks before that. Third hardest matchup versus position. If you have better options, probably don't start Tennessee wide receivers this week. Tough matchup versus Indy, okay? Be aware of that. Chris Olave, okay? If he's starting, tough matchup versus Arizona, fourth hardest versus position, be aware. Juju coming off a huge week, 25 points last week, tough matchup versus San Fran secondary. And you got to understand, guys, coming off it was an anomaly week for him. I don't see that happening again, and especially this week. I would sit Juju. I don't trust him coming off a big week. He gets those lucky catch and runs sometimes, and it happens. They focus on Kelsey, they focus on other people. He'll get those big games once in a while, but don't expect it this week, all right? Devontae Parker in New England, wide receivers got in tough versus Chicago secondary, but, Tyquan Thornton had himself a good week last week. Probably not going to happen this week. Sixth hardest matchup versus position. Other guys that have it in tough, just so you're aware, Jahan Dotson, I know he's been banged up. Anybody, McLaurin, all these guys from Washington's team versus Green Bay secondary got it in tough. Keenan Allen, I'm not sure if he's coming back. He's been banged up. I don't trust him even if he comes back. Mike Williams been inconsistent last week. 2 weeks before that was pretty good. Chargers wide receivers have it in tough versus Seattle secondary. Be cautious there. Drake London's got in tough. He's been relatively inconsistent. Very safe, very boring, very unfortunate because I was really high on him, just not getting the volume that he deserves versus Cincy. Tough matchup. And Devontae Adams. A lot of people ask about Devontae Adams. Do you start him if he plays? I would say yes, you have to start him, but he does have the 10th hardest matchup versus position versus Houston. Also, Darnell Mooney, tough matchup as well. And anybody and everybody from Carolina, mid-range matchup to tough matchup. DJ Moore versus Tampa Bay, tough matchup. All right, so those are the guys that have it in tough. Like I said, Chargers receivers, Jets receivers, Jacksonville receivers, Tennessee receivers, Saints receivers tonight. Got it in tough. Be interesting to see how much volume they get. All right, moving on to the tight end position. Again, go back, guys, and listen to the episode I just did. All right, on the optimal starts. Make sure you guys are tuned into that, of course. All right, and of course, remember, guys, FFC 20. Order some Hooters, guys, for the game. Wings, I love them. Game tonight, game Sunday. UFC, I think that's 2 p.m. Eastern. We got a big UFC card. Make sure you guys go to Hooters.com. FFC20 is the code you want to use. All right, guys? Tight end here. Again, start your tight ends, the guys that have been consistent, but the guys that have it in tough. Zach Ertz, you definitely don't want to sit him. He's been pretty safe and solid, but he is playing the Saints. Tough matchup versus position. Hawkinson, he's been like a roller coaster. 43 points 2 weeks ago, 2 points this past week. You definitely want to start him, even though he's got a tough matchup. If you don't have a better tight end option, he does have it in tough. Just be careful. I am playing against him in a big league that I'm in. I hope he busts this week. So if you want my karma towards TJ Hawkinson, don't start him because I'm wishing bad, basically, in points-wise, right? I wish he has a bad game points-wise. So I don't like him this week, right? And he does have a tough matchup versus Dallas, just be aware. Robert Tonyan coming off a big week, right? Everybody's starting to ride the Tonyan train. I was high on him. Coming off a big 19-point week last week. Fifth hardest matchup versus position, be aware. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to gravitate to him now a little bit more because he doesn't really trust his receivers. Maybe Watson starts getting integrated more. It's been a disaster spreading the ball around. Lazard not giving his return on investment at wide receiver. Dobbs has been inconsistent as well. Maybe Tonyan is a bright spot moving forward, but fifth hardest matchup versus position. I'm still starting him in one league. You may want to as well, coming off a hot week. Travis Kelce, seventh hardest matchup for his position, but you don't want to sit Kelce no matter who he plays. He's playing San Fran. Tough matchup, but you definitely don't want to sit him. Other guys that have it in tough, Mike Gesicki coming off a huge week, 25 points. Prior to that, didn't have good weeks at all, but he does have it in tough. is Mike Gesicki. All right, guys? So Mark Andrews also 12th hardest versus position. Mark Andrews, you definitely don't want to sit him. So those are the guys that got it in tough, but you don't want to sit some of these guys, all right? I mean, Zach Ertz consistent, you know, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, relatively tough matchup. Robert Tonyan coming off a hot week. They got it in tough, but you probably don't want to sit them, all right? Now, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys are subscribed. Go back and check the optimal plays, and I'm going to keep you guys in the loop on everything here on this channel. All right, guys? Make sure you guys are subscribed, thumbs up. And again, Hooters.com, FFC20 is the code you want to use. Go try the wings. Order them in right now. All right, guys? Those are some sits. Be careful. Make educated decisions, and start your most consistent players. Go back. Look at this history now. You can go back and check, and make sure you start the right players. It's a must-win Week 7 for everybody, no matter what your record is. Subscribe, thumbs up. I'm out.